painting pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape pop, smoking weed and bamboo, sipping on private. Way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Boom. Hello, America. Hello, world. Hello, you. It is your new best friend, Cashmere, California. And this is the Pod is Good podcast, aka the Notorious. This is album. See, you see what that Notorious did? This is episode 29. Episode 29. Pod is good. And all the time, if you know, you know. If you don't, keep listening, you will find out. Today, I have an incredible guest, a guest who's traveled all over the world, pretty much. He's traveled all over America, but I know he's spread to the hearts of the world through song, through literature, through his personality, his story. He has an amazing story, connected with an amazing family. I mean, his roots go deep in gospel. His roots go deep in music, period. He's one of my friends from high school. He's one of the guests that I've been most excited this week to hear from, because I know that the nuances of his story are going to amaze you. And this is going to be a very, very interesting, entertaining, and empowering episode of Pod is Good podcast. So let's get it going. Brother James Birdsong Jr.
God bless you, James. How you doing, my friend? Long time no see.
Man, a long time. Way too. How many years?
25
Don't tell
years
nobody
since.
that. Don't tell nobody it's been 25 years, man.
It's true, though. It's
Oh
true.
my goodness. 25 years. How have you been, my guy?
I am truly blessed. And again, congratulations on this new platform that you're doing. I pray that God will open up many doors for you so it could touch many, like especially our young people.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Greatly appreciate that. And I know it will. Having people like you on is all I need. It already touches me. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's like, as
Yeah,
long as it's something to you, you know that it's gonna affect people in the world, right?
that's
Now,
true. That's
now
true.
you've had an incredible legacy since the last time I saw you in high school. So, but let's start there. We met in Fairfield High.
That's correct. And those who just watching, James and I go way back to Fairfield High School in Fairfield, California.
Yes.
I'm a talk about how I ended up at Fairfield High School. For the record, I'm not born and raised in Fairfield. I'm born and raised in Richmond, California.
Richmond.
I'm born and raised in Richmond, California, and those of you who don't know what Richmond, California is located northeast across the bay from San Francisco and north of
Yep.
Oakland.
Yep.
Um, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about my childhood, but I'm gonna get to Fairfield High
Okay.
School. When I was in the ninth grade, I attended. I know you heard of this, James, John F. Kennedy High School in Richmond,
Oh yeah,
California.
definitely.
Cutting Boulevard. So during that year, I attended that school. But see, back then, I really didn't want to go to Kennedy High School. It was too much going on there. So after my parents divorced that summer, me and my mother moved to Fairfield because back in the '90s, a lot of inner city children like myself and others that you and I know and others, they were leaving places like Richmond and others because there was a lot of gang killings and things going on back during the '90s.
Mm.
You remember
Yes, man.
this.
Yeah, it's sad.
So, because there's some young people that I knew of that in Richmond, they didn't make it to their 18th or 21st birthday, and God blessed me to turn 43 this past May 16th. So he has me here. So that summer, me and my mother, Belinda Germany Birdsong, moved to Fairfield. And I heard of Fairfield High School
Mhm.
because my mother had a friend named Adela. Adela. They actually grew up together in Richmond. And when I was growing up in Richmond, California, she and her husband, David Staples, he's related to the famous Staples
Oh, okay.
singers.
Okay.
They would come over and visit my parents because she was living in Fairfield at the time. And so my mother was, she was looking in Berkeley and other places, but Adela told her, she said, Belinda, come to Fairfield. James won't have to be dealing with bully and tease, because
Mm,
I went through that.
gotcha.
I talked about that in things, especially in my memoirs. So that summer we moved to Fairfield, and then that September, I set foot at Fairfield High School ground. And James, this was my first time attending a school outside of Richmond, because I was
Wow.
used to that. I was used to
And
that.
what grade was that? Did you got to Fairfield?
My sophomore, 10th grade
Okay, 10th
year.
grade. Okay.
So I remember one day I was at the campus, and I pray. I said, Lord, I'm new in this city. I really don't know nobody like that. I knew a handful of
Right, right.
people, and I said, God, use me to be an inspirational blessing to the students and everybody here and throughout the city and everything. And I remember the first day I went to Fairfield High School. I walked into, you remember Mrs. Clara Borsch, the world history teacher.
Vaguely, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, she's retired now. She's following on Facebook still. I
Mm.
remember I walked into her classroom, and James, there was a young man. He recognized me. I recognized him. This is during our 10th grade year. He said, "Did you go to Kennedy High School last year?" I said, "Yes, you did too." His name is Furman. He graduated with us.
Wow.
He graduated with us. He and I went to Kennedy High School because when we was at Kennedy High School during our ninth grade year, we really didn't know each other like that, but we were talking things. His girlfriend name was Maria. She and I went to Adams Middle School in Richmond for 7th and 8th grade. And
Hmm.
so he and I became instant friends, and we was, talking about the gospel music, Christian music industry, because he comes from a music background like I do. And then I started meeting people, and one thing led to the next. And it was by our senior year when we was about to graduate. They start calling me the pastor of Fairfield High School, and everybody started knowing about me throughout the whole city. You remember that?
I remember that. Everybody knew
The,
Brother
the
James at a certain point.
Yes. So, and I remember 2 years after we graduated from Fairfield High School, my friend Amy McGinnis, she's retired from the Daily Republic newspaper. She did I wrote my first book when it's no longer in print. She did an interview on me, and it was the big talk of the city for weeks. The
Oh, wow.
churches, everybody was talking about me and everything. And so this was 2 years after we graduated. So my mother said, James, are you going to go to Fairfield High School to visit? Because I was still visiting people that we knew after we left.
Mm.
I said, I'm not gonna go up there, because if I go up there, I know what's gonna happen. So I was blessed to attend Fairfield High School. It was wonderful back then. Met a lot of wonderful people, and then my younger cousins, two of them graduated from Fairfield High School. My cousin King graduated this past June there, and his brother graduated 2 years before he did. And his sister Anaya was at there for her freshman year, but she transferred to Armio to be there with her sister Andrea. So my little cousins, their friends even knew who I was, and they were there, and we was long gone by then,
So
long
it
gone
has
by then.
somehow trickled down to where even other generations knew about you. Now hold on real quick. Let's go back
Mm.
to Richmond. So your earlier schooling was in Richmond. You said you dealt with bullying. What did you feel bullied, or did you find out you were bullied later? Sometimes when you're a kid, you don't
Hmm.
even realize it, and everybody else is like, oh yeah, yeah. It was kind of hard for you during that time.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my journey. I was born and raised in Richmond, California. I lived at the corner of Main Avenue and Harbor Way South. That's the South Side. I lived right by the Richmond Marina, the Port of Richmond. Point Richmond was like down, was not that far from my neighborhood, and the Chevron refinery was there. And we had our issues with Chevron, the refinery, and
Mm,
and everything like that. So Richmond has a lot of history. So
yeah.
I attended school, like the first school I attended was No Learn Language Center in Hilltop. That was a school for children with disabilities, because at 3 years old, God healed me from a speech impediment. The attacking
Oh wow.
me, but God had a call in my life, and He healed me from it. I told my testimony all over the world, James, on different
Gosh.
TV shows. I've been
Yeah, I
interviewed.
think I saw it. There was like you weren't able to talk, or what was it?
What happened was, when I was 13 months old, my parents noticed something was different with me because my mother told me
Okay.
that I'll be humming, and they were telling my parents because my dad was the late Reverend James C. Birdsong. See, my father was well known in the city of Rich. He was a minister, a community activist, and everything like
Right.
that. And they were telling my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Birdsong, your sons got to teach, are gonna have to learn American Sign Language. But God had a ram in the bush, and so God healed me of that after when a Church of God in Christ pastor named the late Elder Robert Crawford prophesied to my mother and said, Sister Birdsong, if you give your heart to the Lord, then God will heal your son to speak.
Got it.
And that's
That's
when my journey
amazing.
that's when my ministry journey began. I could talk about this
Got it.
all day, but
Okay.
I attended
Okay.
schools. I went to Shelton Elementary School for pre-K and Elsa Bronte, and I went to
Mm.
Horse Elementary School for first to fourth grade in Pernod. That was my favorite school. I had so much fun at Horse. I went on more field trips than the other school I attended, but after my fourth grade year, James, and we're gonna get to the early '90s. I had to attend. I don't know if you heard of Neastrom Elementary.
I'm not.
Okay, it was right across the street from my house. My cousins went there. All my friends in the neighborhood went there. I had to go there for the fifth grade because I couldn't go to LOS anymore. So I experienced the teasing and bullying when I got there. But the
Mm.
principal, Mrs. Darlene Jones, and she's retired now. She told my parents, she said, I'm gonna watch out for your son. Those teachers at Neastrom Elementary School, they retired now. I'm still close to them to this day, and they
Oh
always
wow.
supported me. So even though I went through some things, the divorce of my parents and other situations, I did not let that stop me from going forth what God had in store for me. And
Mm.
that's what our children and young people need to know because I'm an
Yeah.
advocate for young people. They need to be encouraged in things like that. So my parents didn't teach me how to be a quitter. They did not.
So do you, because you champion for the youth, are there any youth events or activities or organizations that you've either put together or you go and frequent anywhere right now?
Well, not recently. Well, this past February, I went to Benjamin E. Mays High School here in Atlanta, Georgia, named after
Okay.
Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, and we all know in Black history we know who he was.
Okay.
He was the president of Morehouse College when Dr. King was a student there. They had Career Day, and I have a nonprofit organization called Birdsong Association of Broadcasting and Arts. We've been around for 4 years, but we're still growing. This organization is designed to help our Black youth from K to 12th grade in Atlanta, but we're going to have operations there where you're in LA, New
Hmm.
York, and DMV area to pursue their dreams and goals in the performing arts and broadcasting through programs, partnerships, events, and so forth. So this high school is one of the schools that we selected with our organization, but we still working on building those partnerships. So I went over there this past February to talk to the students about our organization, the music and media students. But in the past, I had spoken at graduation ceremonies, church events over the years, and so forth. Yes, I have.
Got you. Got you. Now I hate to make such a harsh turn, but I know you talked about your family, your father, everything that he
Hmm.
did, and from what I understand, if I read correctly, that you got in your family, some of your family's music has been sampled by Kanye, Mary J, Daft
Hmm.
Punk. Like, what does that feel like? I mean, I'm pretty sure you know the song. So what does that feel like when you hear music and you know, like, oh, that's my family right there?
Well, James, everybody know about the Birdsong family.
Mm.
Everybody know about our family and so forth. And the person that you're talking about is the Lord called him home in 2019. The late great Edwin Birdsong. In
Edwin
the in
Birdsong. Okay.
in the 70s, he started out in the 70s. He did 5 albums between 1971 to 81. And my cousin back then was friends with Stevie Wonder. Is he's family to our family,
Oh,
and Edwin worked with the Roy Ayers, Billy Preston, all
wow.
these music greats,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then my cousin even knew Michael Jackson, even been to the Neverland Ranch, and because he told me this.
Sheesh.
But the song but my cousin Edwin's music started getting sampled later on because we know in the music industry, even in gospel, a lot of the artists have sampled the songs from way back. They way back. So in 2007, Kanye West did the Graduation album, and
Yeah.
there was a song on that album called Stronger.
Oh
And
yeah.
so Kanye West sampled my cousin Edwin's song Cola Bottle Baby that came out in 1979 for Stronger. That's
What?
I'm not making this up.
That's crazy.
If you look in the credits, you'll see Edwin Birdsong listed. That's my cousin.
That's fire.
And so in 2008, I was at the campus at Georgia Tech, Georgia Institute of Technology, because and I went to go visit their gospel choir back. Then. I was in college here in Atlanta doing my bachelor's in biblical education at a Christian university here, and so I called my cousin Edwin one evening. He was at the 50th annual Grammy Awards. I
Hmm.
knew he was going. And
Okay.
so, and Kanye West, Strong was nominated for a Grammy for Best Rap Performance of the Year. I called my cousin that night. I'll never forget what he told me. Edwin said, "Cuz we won that Grammy tonight." So when Kanye won the Grammy for Stronger, Edwin got one too. And then
Oh, that's dope.
and 2 years later, when the Funk and Friends sampled my cousin sang a song for Harder, Faster, Stronger, he
Mm.
won a Grammy for that. So since Stronger's been out, the single itself has now been certified 10 million copies. That's Diamond.
Psh, yes. Diamond. And I got it right here on Wikipedia over here in songwriters. Right here, Edwin Birdsong.
That was my cousin. He was very supportive with me. When I'm gonna talk about my book too, but he was very special in our family. We love Edward. We miss him very much, and we're gonna keep his legacy alive. Our family.
Absolutely. And your family has such a strong legacy. There's even got sports players in your family.
Oldest bird song.
Otis. I'm
He
like,
was he was a
y'all,
four-time NBA All Star.
y'all just taking over. This is not fair. This is not fair for one family to have this many dominant genes to where you taking over in music and gospel and in the pulpit and sports. I mean, come on, man. Leave some on the bone for the rest of us, bro.
And I hear you, my friend. But and then so Otis was an NBA All Star. He played for the Kansas City Kings before they went to Sacramento. Then he played the
Mm,
New Jersey Nets, and then during his last year in his career, he played 1 year for Boston, the team that Larry Bird played for, and then he retired. And because a lot of the older people, like our parents and grandparents, they remember my cousins. Then
right,
you
right.
have then you have Cindy Birdsong. She's back. She's an original member of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells in the '60s, and then when Florence Bauer left the Supremes, my cousin Cindy replaced her. I've been knowing about this
Did you just
life,
say she
all my
was
life.
Patti LaBelle's replacement? Is that what I just heard?
When Florence Bauer, I know you heard of Florence Bauer. When Florence Bauer left
Oh,
the
Florence
Supremes, I
Bauer.
think
Okay, okay,
when
okay,
she left the Supremes, I think
okay.
1966, 67,
Yeah.
Cindy left Patti LaBelle's Bluebells and replaced placed Florence in the Supremes.
Okay, okay. I heard it wrong. Wow. So she had some pipes on her. She was singing the
Yeah,
paint off the church.
yes, and then I had a great uncle. He died in the '70s. The late Reverend Sidney Birdsong. He pastored Solid Rock Baptist Church there in LA, where you at.
Oh, nice, nice.
That was my cousin Edwin's father. So James, when he died in the mid '70s, my father told me a story about our history about our family. Stevie
Mm.
Wonder sang at my great uncle's funeral, and his funeral
Oh
was held
wow.
at Angelique's funeral home, that historical black owned funeral home in L.A. It was packed. I was told it was packed. Because because Uncle Sidney, he was kind of like along with the CEO Franklin era of preachers. So we got preachers in the
Mhm.
family too.
Mm.
So God has really blessed us.
Yes, definitely, man. You have a legacy, a strong
Yeah.
legacy. And
Hmm.
now you're carrying it on. And so let's
Yeah.
get into your your lap, if you will, with the baton, because it sounds like that's all y'all doing is one person run a lap, pass the baton, run another person run a lap. Like you guys are, y'all are killing it right now. So right now that James Jr. has the baton, let's talk about some of the things that you're doing out there. So you are an author.
That's correct.
How many books have you written?
I wrote my first book called One Marriage, Many Tales, and a Separation, a Message of Hope at the age of 14, because my parents was going through a divorce during that time. And the book
Mm,
was finished when you and I was in our last year of high school, but it didn't come out till 2000. It's out of print. So
mm,
so so 6 years ago, the Lord had me to, kind of revamp the book, but add more. It's entitled "The Best Is Yet to Come: A Testimony of One Young Man's Redemption," and here it is right here. Can you see
And so
that?
this is a book. Yeah, this is a book based on marriage or divorce. I didn't catch it.
No, no. The first book was my autobiography, but it was titled
Got
that.
it.
So I took what I did in the first book and added it to this one. Both books are
Got you.
memoirs, my memoirs. This book has more in it, and this is little old me as a baby, chubby baby.
Got. Look at him. Look at him. So 14, you
So
write your first book.
that's correct. And right at 14, I was still living in Richmond at the time. That's correct.
Okay. And you said you wrote it. The inspiration for that book, or to actually sit down and write a book at 14, which hats off to you. What was the
Mhm.
inspiration for doing that in that moment?
Well, like I was going through a lot. My parents was going through their issues and things like that. Because in the '90s things changed in our home, but in the '80s, my dad, he was in the newspapers, the '70s, and all of that because he was a preacher himself. He wasn't a pastor, but he was a minister in the city of Richmond. Every like the mayor, the city council, the school of everybody, knew, especially my father. So I wanted to write that book to kind of help our young people that's going through, and for fathers to really be fathers in the lives of their children. But I was blessed with both parents in the home, both parents in the
Mm.
home.
Okay.
So
Okay.
years
That's good.
later, I'm like, Lord, it needs to be more in it. So after I got grown and everything, when I decided to take what I did and added it to the best is yet to come, a testimony of young man's
Mm,
redemption, James, and it's been more to it. The book this came out in 2017. So what I did
okay.
was me and my mother came to Los Angeles, and I did a special book signing for my family. It was a Birdsong family affair, and
Oh,
it was
nice.
held at City Banquet Hall in Compton. So my mom was there, my cousin Edwin, the legend, he was there. Some of the members, the family was there. Some of the LA elected officials was there, and I had two major gospel artists there.
Oh, wow.
My good friend Reverend Calvin Bernard Roan, who wrote songs for Reverend Cleveland, Tremaine Hawkins, Daryl Coley, and the Hawkins and others, because he's been. I'm sure you heard of Pastor Calvin Bernard Roan. So he's a pastor in L.A., but he's a major gospel artist because he was really out there when we were coming up. And then I had Lily of the Mississippi Mass Choir. She sings "Sister Know Jesus." She came out and sang.
Mm,
Then my friend Sean Dancy, who went to high school with Tina of Mary, and his wife Yolanda came out. And then
okay.
the politicians recognized me with proclamations, resolutions, and also the LA Sentinel newspaper came out because I have a contact with them. So after when this book came out, James, doors began to open. I was on interview on Babby Mason's show here in Atlanta, and I was interviewed on the Cornerstone Television Network in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's a national Christian television network. I've been interviewed on other media platforms, TV, radio, print. Even during the pandemic, I was even interviewed on a show in the UK, and I've been interviewed on
Mm,
radio stations and different media platforms. So and because people said that the book has touched their lives, and it has a great message and it has a lot of history in there. It's a lot in
right.
there, but I'm taking readers on a journey in this book. So
Mm,
I'm just grateful to God for him allowing me to do this and what's going on now. And I know, and awards started coming, different things started coming, and everything. So it's been a journey for me. It has
yeah.
been.
On the road a lot. Like let me step into the lifestyle of being on the road. Like, how do you maintain a good diet eating on the road? Like, what does James like to eat when he's in all these different places? Can't cook everywhere, obviously. What do you eat?
Well, I don't travel all the time like that, but when I do, I eat like the basic foods that we eat and everything, and I try my best not to overdo it because when we overdo it, it can lead
Gotcha.
stress and everything.
Of course, of course. I know a few people that do a lot of traveling for work or for career or whatnot,
Hmm.
and it oftentimes makes makes dining a little complicated when living out the suitcase.
That's true. That is
Yeah, especially being
That
You
is
go
so
ahead.
true. That is so true. And you know, James, I want to go back to my little cousins at Fairfield High School. When this book came out,
Mhm.
my cousin Nas, he graduated 2 years ago from Fairfield High School, and Mrs. Alice Claiborne, she is still working at Fairfield High. Our teacher, Miss
Oh
Claiborne.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Kenya's mom.
I don't know. She keeps saying she's going to retire, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't talked to her in a while, but she follows me on social media. So my little cousin had her class for his freshman year. This was back about 6 years ago, and
Hmm,
Mrs. Claiborne asked him and her students to write a book about a famous person. So my little cousin took my memoirs, the book, to Fairfield High School, and he wrote a book report on his big cousin and the book and everything. And
that's fire.
Mrs. Claiborne told her students, he's about me. She said yes. She told them about me, what he's the, what I was being called at that time, and and that real and that's when some of the newer teachers find out and people found out who I was. Now my cousin Anaya was at Fairfield High School, and because my little cousin got an A on that paper. He did very good with that.
Hmm,
Now
nice.
when his sister went to Fairfield High School before she transferred to Armio, you remember Catherine Bass, Mrs. Bass?
No,
Okay, well
no.
she changed her last name to Calamari because she married Mrs. Calamaris' son.
Okay,
So
okay.
so so Mrs. her name, but they call her Missy Calamari. She was at Fair Price when we was there. My little cousin Anaya, Nas's sister, had her class during the freshman year, and she was telling, and she brought my name up to Mrs. Calamari, which back then she was known as Mrs. Best. She told Anaya, she said everybody knew Brother Jane. She said he was the boss back then. Everybody knew him. And my little cousin said he's still the boss now. He all famous now and out there now.
Look at them.
That's what she told her. So
So they're really proud of you. That's
yes,
good.
their friends, be, I haven't talked to them in a while, but their friends be asking them, when's he coming out here to do something big? Because I've been asked to come to the Bear to do something major, but I don't have nothing on my schedule right now. But it's in the
Mhm.
making. But yeah.
Yeah. And what was the last? What to you? What was your most major moment? Like, what was your biggest moment so far in all that you've been doing?
You know what, my friend, it's a whole lot. But if I was going to name something, getting all my bachelor's, my master's, and PhD degrees,
There you go.
and I had two
Okay.
honorary doctorate degrees. That, and also when and also being when the United States Congress honored me in the congressional record 2 years ago. My Congressman David Scott, who was with the Congressional Black Caucus, made that possible. And then and like last year, President Biden sent me a congratulatory message.
And what was the message
He
about?
was telling he
Like,
was
what? Congratulating you for what?
your accomplishments, and he said keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to continue being an inspiration to others.
Wow. So how did that make its way to the desk of the president? That's incredible.
It's an honor. And also, James, I want to tell all your viewers out there, have you heard of Who's Who in America?
Yes.
I'm actually listening to Who's Who in America.
Get out of
I'm not
here.
making this up.
Get out of
I'm not making
here.
this up. I've been listening there since for the last 19 years, and then 2019 they honored me with their lifetime achievement award. They called me and told me I was getting this award, and I was not expecting it. And it's the same award that they honored Colin Powell, Warren Buffett, and President Clinton with. They have all of us on a website. hmm
That's
Now, God,
that's
that's a
impressive.
blessing.
That's a blessing. I mean, it all is. Your whole story sounds like since you were, you know, 13 months, your whole story has been one blessing after another, after another,
But
after
but
another.
it hasn't been easy though. I had my days too,
Oh
just like
no.
we all do. But but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
before my father passed away during our last year of our high school 11th grade year. We was in finals, and I was gonna go to the class of '97 graduation because we knew most of the people in the class of '97. I couldn't go, James, because I
Hmm.
had to go to Richmond to bury my father. But one of my
Hmm.
last conversations with him before he
Sad.
passed away, he was 58 when he passed. Before he died, he told me something I'll never forget. He
Wow, he's
he
young.
said, "Son, you're gonna be a famous man someday." My daddy told me that before the Lord called him home. He told me that.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's huge. Daryl Robinson acts. His book came out in 2000. You know, I don't know if you knew Daryl,
Yes,
but Daryl is
yes.
okay.
I want to say God bless you to Daryl. Him and his sister and mom and dad, we was all going to Pastor Bellamy's church, and during that time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's right. That's right.
Pastor Bellamy gonna be with the Lord now, but I was actually one of the ministers at the church, and also and we was at Fairfield High School, James. I used to get invited out to a lot of churches because my name was getting out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And you were young. Yeah, you were a younger pastor. You had the conviction. You
mhm,
had all the charisma and personality needed. And so yeah,
yeah.
I could imagine.
So
I could imagine.
yeah,
He said that Pledge still has your book.
yes, but
That's awesome.
that's the first book, but the one I'm showing you now that came out in 2017.
Got you.
Yeah, yeah,
Got
I
you.
know. I remember.
And
I,
so
I remember Ples. He was. I remember him. He was at the church as well with all of us back then. My mom
yep,
was there too.
yep. That's a fact.
Hmm.
All right, so I keep hearing about all the professional work. I'm trying to get to the background and figure out what who is James outside of his public persona. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? What do you like to watch? What do you binge watch? You know what I mean?
Well, since we are children of the 1980s and teenagers of the 1990s, I go on YouTube and
Yeah.
still watch like In Living Color and Martin, all those shows that we grew up
Hey,
watching when we were coming up. Because these shows,
yes, sir.
because especially we had a more black sitcoms back then than we do now. Because like
Very true.
I'm in the entertainment industry, so I know what I'm talking about. But now we live in a reality TV age, so I'm like, nah. And so,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then my cousin Anaya told me something, the one I just told you about. She said, "Wow, cousin James, I wish I was born when y'all was coming up." I said, "We had fun because I'd be telling them stories about our childhood and everything." I like to
yeah.
travel. I like to visit historical landmarks when I can. I'm a big. I love our HBCU. So, because actually, my
Hmm,
girlfriend, my Elizabeth, that's here now, the woman that's gonna be my wife. I told her that we're gonna go over there so she could visit those campuses. And plus, I'm very family oriented. I love family, and I like to spend time with my family when I can. So,
hmm.
and I like amusement parks and those kind of recreation activities.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Favorite character on Martin? Who's your favorite character he played?
Martin, of course, Martin himself.
No, no, one of his
Oh, the
characters. I
character.
want to know.
Oh, the character.
Yeah, one of Martin's characters. Which Martin character was your favorite?
I didn't have a favorite, but when he played Mama Pain, I'll be cracking up laughing. Up when he would say,
Oh,
"You applehead." You remember how he was. You remember that, and
yes.
then
Always talking about Gina Head.
and right, and then Jerome talking about he's a Mac from way back from the human layer. You remember that?
Oh yes.
And then also the part
Yeah.
when he would tell Tommy, "You ain't got no job,
You ain't got
no
no
job."
job, man. Yeah, right. It got to the point everybody said at the same time.
And
You ain't got no job, Tommy.
And you know what? I never met Tom before, but he was living here in Atlanta because he was helping the young
Hmm.
people and everything. I told somebody if I ever run into him, I'm gonna bring it up. I would have told him that, but I never met him or anything like that. And then
Right, right,
in
right.
Living Color, Homie the Clown was one of my favorite characters on Living Color. You remember he would
Mm,
say, "Homie,
yeah.
don't play that." I still say that
Yep.
today.
You still say, homie, don't play
and
that?
and then you
I
remember
gotta get you a sock.
and right and you also remember during the last season the Wayans family had left during the last season. I was in middle school, so I used to videotape all those shows on the VCR, and
Okay.
and
Yeah, yeah.
and I would go to Hilltop Mall and go buy video cassette tapes and come back home and videotape all those shows. This was before me and my parents divorced and before me and my moved to Fairfield. But
Yeah.
during the last season, when I was in my last year of middle school, Adams Middle School, my classmates and I, we would talk about the Dirty Dozens game show. Your mama this, your mama that. You remember that?
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's crazy how that was so. acceptable back then. Like
You
nowadays,
can't do that.
no, things are way too sensitive now. You can't go down that road
No, no,
with some of the
no,
stuff that was said back
no,
then.
no, you can't. And then in the 80s, it was the Jeffersons. I also watched, I remember TGIF with Full House and Family Manners.
Oh yeah,
I used
yeah,
to watch all those shows, and Mr. Belvedere, Silver Spoons, The Golden Girls. I was watching that Golden Girls episode on YouTube the other day.
yeah,
And you remember
yeah. I
how
think
funny they were.
I put my wife onto the Golden Girls, and she loves it. She was watching it more than me recently. Once we figured out it was on, we could get it right now. She was just binge watching it all the time.
And then on the Living Color, there was an episode when Damon Wayans, Jim Carrey, they played the two televangelists. I was cracking up when I saw that.
Oh,
You remember that
oh, that
episode?
was good.
And you remember Jim Carrey said, "I have sinned." We know where he got that line from.
Where?
Jimmy Swagger was one of the televangelists I grew up watching when we were children. Jimmy Swagger,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
and you
yeah.
remember that incident in the 80s, and he said, "I sinned."
Yes,
So Jim
yes,
Carrey
yeah,
kind of played him a living color. He was doing that.
yeah. He played that character well.
And then David Wayans,
He played
who
that
was like a
character well.
creflo dollar to somebody said that about. He took the gun and shot it in the church, talking about give up the money now. You remember that episode?
They were
I know
hilarious together.
that.
It's crazy how many superstars came from that one show. I mean,
Yes.
they became TV stars, movie stars,
Hmm.
stand-up comedy stars. I
Right.
mean, Hollywood elite, all from that one show.
That's true. And then Jamie Foxx, he had the Jamie Foxx show. That was when we was in high school. And the Steve
Right.
Harvey show, I was watching that. So I watched a lot of the black sitcoms back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No, no, that's some classic TV.
Yes, yes, it
That's some
was.
really classic TV.
Like
Yeah.
my mom, my mom is 76 now. She still watches her old school westerns when she grew up watching.
Mm, that's good.
Hmm.
That's good, and that's the beauty about the internet now. Like it gives you so much more content. Back in the day, once something went off air,
Hmm.
once they canceled the show,
Hmm.
that was it.
That was
You
it.
had to wait until maybe that network started playing repeats if it was in a reruns, if it was in syndication.
Hmm.
But that's it. Nowadays, you can go back and watch any and everything for the most part.
Yeah, thank God. Somebody said, "Thank God for you too." So we could. It's like you going back in time when you was a child, a teenager, and that's kind of like our time
Yeah,
machine. So I'll
yeah,
be watching that, and and everything else. So
yeah,
so I gotta go. I go, and sometimes James, I'll be saying, if I could just go back in time to the 80s, because when we were children, Ronald Reagan was president when we were children.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
remember that Bush and Bill Clinton. Speaking about Bill Clinton, I had a name. I had a nickname for Bill Clinton. You know what I would call him? Mac
What?
Daddy Bill. You know what I'm talking about.
So I know this was after the incident then,
Yeah.
because you could have went a few ways. He had he was playing the saxophone. He had I smoked but I didn't inhale. Like,
Right.
he had a few different things. So I didn't know where you were gonna go with the nickname, but Mac
Yeah,
Daddy Bill.
and all the comedians was talking about, and me and my mom was talking about. You remember he said, "I did not." That finger.
I did not. I did not. Come to find out, that was a lie.
He came out and admitted it, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
happened the year we graduated from Fairfield High.
which is so crazy to think
I
about.
know that. And then Georgie Bush, he became president. That's why I used to call him too. Because I'm gonna tell you about Bush, and those who's watching will agree with me. He will have me on the floor cracking up.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. George Bush was the closest thing to like laughing at a president until
Mhm.
Trump came along. Like Trump would
Oh,
say, Trump went even further with some of the
right.
hilarious things he would say. But yeah, Bush was like, I don't think he meant to be funny, but
Hmm.
man, he was hilarious.
Yes, he was.
Um,
I still go in and watch some of his old videos.
right, all right.
Yes, along with church and gospel music, because that's what I'm involved with. But
Of
yeah.
course, of course.
Hmm.
Yeah, did you know he came out with like a coloring book
Who
recently?
Trump?
No, no, Bush, George Bush Jr.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had he was doing like a promo campaign for a while, I think it was right around 2019, somewhere in there, right before the
Hmm.
2020 election. And yeah, he had a coloring book that he had done. And it was like almost like he was trying to rebrand himself, like not as the president that might have botched things during 9/11,
Right.
but like now he's like the artistic president that does children's books, uh children's coloring books. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Pretty interesting. So
Yes.
that was I like how you go back to the time capsules and the time, especially for black and overall. Even BET as black entertainment actually felt black back then.
And
Like,
right, and Bobby Jones Gospel, and I met Bobby
yeah,
Jones, and I have connections with people in the industry with Bobby Jones, and also Dad, and it was a lot, and and
yeah,
I'm still a fan of Michael Jackson. All of us, I remember when he did the
always.
Bad album, the commercials, Dangerous, and all that, because I remember in the Bay Area, KTPU Channel 2 would premiere. You remember back then when him and Janet would do their albums and they would do a premiere of the music videos on the stations back then.
Yeah, yeah.
They did all that
Yep. Yep. Yep.
like a world premiere.
Right. Get you ready for it. Nowadays, Beyonce got an album and it just comes out today. Like you didn't even know she was working on the album, and it's like
Hmm.
boom, it's out. Like, oh,
Yeah, and
oh.
speaking about music, I'm actually me and my business partner, we're about to launch we working on launch a record company in gospel music as
Hmm.
well. That's another project I'm working on.
And have you've done your own album, right?
No, no, not
Not
yet,
yet.
but it's coming.
Okay. Okay.
It's coming. But I wrote a song years ago, James, and I had a major gospel artist, a Stellar Award nominated gospel artist, a legend, and a
Mm,
platinum artist. She came here in June to record a single, and the producer who produced it, was Grammy nominated with Indie RE. So it's gonna be a hit. So it'll be out next year, but everybody's gonna find out who this artist is and everything.
got it.
Hmm.
If
Because
you
because hmm
if
Go
you
ahead.
if you could snap your fingers and change anything in the world, what would it be?
Woo, wow. Well,
Anything in the world.
if I was gonna say something, we need more love and compassion for one another, and
Mm,
we need to be better example setters for our children, because this generation today, Gen Z, they watching us, and there's a lot of bad influences out there, because our parents and grandparents, they didn't play when it came to us.
right.
This generation now, they got us, they coming from a single parent home and everything else, and we need more. And when there's no father in the home, James, there's no discipline, everything, like I tell anybody, a mother could love her child, nurture her child, all that, especially her son, but one thing that a mother cannot do is teach her son how to be a man. That's when daddy
Sure.
comes in.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'm 43, but I was raised old school. I know what I'm talking about. So if I was gonna answer that question, we need more of that. In that, I wish we could go back how things used to be, but we have to accept the fact we're living in the last days. The Bible's fulfilling itself, and the Lord is soon to return. And we still asleep, and we won't wake up.
And so then your view, if you don't mind, let me know if I go anywhere you don't want to go, but your
Right.
view on same sex marriage, then you would be traditionally against that.
That's correct. But
Yeah.
one thing about me is that I'm not gonna I don't believe in tearing down a person either.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So
I had people like that. They follow me on social media.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you let people live the way that they want, but you may not necessarily support it or be in
No,
favor.
I don't support it, because I believe a marriage is between a man and a woman.
Hmm.
But the only thing I have to do is we have to pray for them, and and God, God has to do the deliverance in their lives. God has to do it.
True.
We
True.
can't we can't we you know we could be we could talk about it all we want to, but at the end of the day, God has to do it, because we got all these, because like even with the church, I was raised in the church, James, like most of us were, but
Mm.
we have a lot of, well, we got a lot of hypocrites and hold it and doubt people. But how you talk about somebody else is wrong, and you got flaws and things in your closet as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't get me started.
yeah. No, get started. Get started.
Hmm.
That's why we here. That's why we
Yeah,
here.
but that's what I want to say on that.
I got you. I got you. So yeah, we had Pastor Reginald Brown.
That name sounds familiar.
Okay, Pastor Reginald Brown was on the show, and we were talking about the LGBTQ plus community and
Hmm.
is there a place for them in the black church? And he
Hmm.
said, yes. He said, yes, there definitely is. With transformation. He said that's one thing that we have kind of lost in church is remembering that it's a sacrifice that
Hmm.
we are called to be transformed, through the
Hmm.
blood. What is your opinion on that?
When he said transform, okay, James, I could put you like this. There's people that is in is going through that right now. A
Mhm.
lot of them were molested when they were children, and different things happened to them. Okay, it could be a person in there right now that's praying, saying, Lord, I want to change. I don't want to live like this anymore. And what we have to do is show them the love of God, and allow God's anointing to guide us, to help them walk to do the deliverance. Because I heard testimonies of people that were living their lifestyle, and they no longer living in their lifestyle because they wanted change in their life. Change in their life.
Mm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it feels like there's definitely a lot of versions of different lifestyles that are going on right now, and even for me, as I sit back and I like you try to be very open and receptive to people's views and their
Hmm.
choices,
Hmm.
when I hear people say that this particular lifestyle is not a choice, this is how I was made. And sometimes if I find that being opposite of what my belief of what the Bible says that God did with each person,
Hmm.
it does become a complicated matter, because you never want to tell somebody, oh, you're wrong. You're only like that because of some trauma in your life that sent you
Hmm.
down this way. You don't want to
Hmm.
judge it, kind of unknowingly. But you also want to speak truth. You know what I mean? You want to be a vessel for God's word when you have that
Hmm.
opportunity, and maybe that is an opportunity, and that's a sensitive matter.
Yes, because like I said, you don't know what they're going through, and God could use you to be His vessel to minister the word of God to them. And but it's up to them to make that decision. And but like I said, I heard stories of people, James, that was going through that, and they've been delivered, set free. They are now married, have children, they happy.
Mm. Hmm.
And I'm telling you stories that I heard, but at the same time, but a lot of us, some of us are wrong though, because like in the old church, I grew up in the holiness church. You know about that.
Hmm. Yeah,
I grew up
absolutely.
in I grew up in Church of God in Christ and Apostolic, but my family comes from a Baptist background, still is today. They will say, "Oh, you going to hell for wearing makeup? You going to hell for dress this way and things." I'm talking about when we were children growing up,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was really really something when our parents and grandparents was growing up like
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
and see things like that could run a person away and everything like that. Yeah, yes, I know they were, but I know they were all about God and the anointing, the Holy Spirit, and they didn't play back there because they were really truly for God during that time. But at the same time, like if I'm gonna talk about this person's flaws, we need to talk about all the other flaws as well.
Right.
And
Right.
the problem is, we have young people that's going through other things, and a lot of the preachers and pastors, even some today, James, they leave that out and want to focus on this one particular sin.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That happens a lot. I
Yeah, I
actually
know. I
told Pastor
know.
Reggie that same story. That happened. It happened in a church in North Hollywood. Exactly what you're saying.
Hmm.
Staying away from the sins that that might offend certain people,
Hmm.
and just talk about the other ones that are a little easier to digest,
Right.
not so sensitive.
That's true. So like I said, we just have to we could minister to them, but it's up to them, to receive it. And God, like I said, God has to do it.
Yeah.
God has to make the change. But we have to be open for us to make the change. Like God is waiting with His arms out for us to receive Him, but we have to be open to receive what God has in store for us.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. You know what? That I know you're working on the label.
The record
Hopefully,
label.
hopefully an album. Will be
Yes.
coming soon after that. So that right there, to me as a rapper, like that's a very interesting topic. There's a lot of depth there. There's a lot
Hmm.
of audience for it, and it's something that you don't really hear. So
Hmm.
I personally kind of navigate towards topics like that when I'm about to write something. But I know gospel music doesn't always deal with those issues directly
Hmm.
through song. You know what I mean?
Right.
They,
Right.
they kind of deal a little bit above it. It's more of the upliftment. It's more of the seeking the Lord. It's more of the praising Him. It's more of
Yes.
the atmosphere around it. Would that ever be like for you when you start writing songs? Since you've written books very directly about things that you were going through and things that you saw, would you try to tackle topics like that or sensitive subjects when you're writing music?
Yeah, well, actually, James, I'm glad you asked that question. Like this song that I'm telling that this artist going to do, it came. God gave me this song 19 years ago, and it's really talking about thanking God for being in His grace in spite of no. It's like one of those songs, like a testimony that's really going to touch the hearts and minds of the soul, body, and mind, even spiritually.
Gotcha.
But I love the old school gospel music. I grew up listening to Shirley Caesar, and my
Mm,
dad had it, Reverend Cleovis Robinson records, because my father could really sing, but he had opportunity to record back during the golden age of gospel music, but he never did. My father had records by the Harmonizing Four, the Caravans, Reverend James Cleveland, all those iconic gospel singers. And when we were coming up, we grew up on people like Commission, the Hawkins family, Take Six, and then Kirk Franklin and John P. Key and Yolanda, all of them came out. And yes, it has changed because we have a lot of people doing praise and worship songs now, but we don't have enough gospel song that addresses the issue that's going on in the world today, especially when it comes to like what happened with George Floyd.
right.
We
Right.
didn't we don't have too many gospel songs about what happened to George Floyd.
Right. I wonder
And
why.
you know what? I really not sure about that. But it's like one of the gospel artists, I don't know if you heard of Lemmy Battles. She did a song called "I'm Black and I Still Matter."
Mm,
Shirley Caesar did a song called "Take your neck, take your knee off of my neck."
yeah. Yeah.
I know you heard of that song by
I
her.
heard of that one. Yeah. Forgot
Yeah,
about that one
so
though. Yeah.
songs like that. But like during the civil rights move, and even when Jim Crow was going on, we were singing those old songs that our ancestors were singing in slavery, like "Wait, Take Me Way to the Water," "Still Away," and "I've Been Bucking Scorn," and all those type of songs, because those songs back then came out of the experience of our ancestors in slavery,
Yeah.
and they were singing those songs back during that time. I'm talking about before we were born and everything
Long
like
before.
that. Yeah, and those songs still have a powerful message in it to this day. Yes, we need to keep the old school gospel music alive, but me being in the industry, because I've been studying the industry, James. I started on my journey of gospel music professionally when we was at Fairfield High School when I was 16 years old. And what I
Mm,
was doing was I was going on websites in the library, because back then we had a 1 hour lunch break between the third and fourth period. I'll be in the library online reading about Malaco Records, Word Records, all the different artists, and Reverend Timothy Wright and others. Then I started reading Gospel Today magazine, and that's what really helped me. And then God blessed me and my mom to step out on faith and to move here in 2005. And that's when I started meeting a lot of people, even to this day. But to answer your question about the industry, there's room for it. But at the end of the day, it's all about ministry. It doesn't matter if it's gospel, hip hop, old school gospel, contemporary, what. But it has to be something that's going to touch people's life, because people going through a lot, especially what's going on today, the economy, people losing their homes, especially what's going on there in California. So
yeah.
we need songs that's really going to minister to those people, especially in the situation they're dealing with now.
Absolutely. And the Bible
Mhm.
talks about meeting people where they are.
There you
You
go.
know what I mean? And sometimes you got to step outside the church door and
Yes.
really speak to what's going on, and let people know that the church recognizes it, because there is a distance that has grown in this new culture between the secular society
Mhm.
and gospel society, and it's like there shouldn't be as much of a as thick of a wall that there is, but I think
Mhm.
it's more the responsibility of the gospel community to walk outside and say, hey, I see you, God sees you, we are
Mhm.
with you, we
Mhm.
understand. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
And that's true, James. Like when the Edwin Hawkins singers did "Oh Happy Day" in 1969,
Mhm.
that was an old song from the 18th century. They Edwin Hawkins, and I talked to him on the phone a couple of times. This was some years ago, and so they took that. And that's what started the contemporary gospel music movement. They were singing "Oh Happy Day" in the nightclubs and all that. But the traditional church was criticizing them because they were saying it was too worldly. Now, if you hear "Oh Happy Day," almost 50 some years later, it's classified as traditional now. But
Mhm.
back then, they were getting criticized for it. Like, you remember when Tremaine did "Fall Down" when we were in children in the 80s?
So what was it called?
Tremaine Hawkins did a song in the 80s called "Fall Down."
I probably remember it if I heard it.
Okay, it crossed over to the dance charts.
Oh
And
wow.
she was getting criticized for it because she was singing it in the clubs and everything. But it was a gospel song, but it was on the dance charts.
Mm.
Same thing when the Clark sisters did "We Brought the Sunshine."
Yeah, Kirk Franklin went through that.
Right, I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
Mary and
Mary went through
others.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Even Shirley Caesar even went through it too.
yeah. More recently, Molly Music. He's been
Yes.
going through that. Yeah, but I mean,
So mhm,
I don't know your stance on it, but to me, I feel it a bit, depending on what the content of the song is and what the intention of the artist is. I feel it
mhm,
a bit hypocritical to say that, God is in everything. God is our
mhm,
creativity. God is
mhm.
our inspiration. But then you take a gospel person who's inspired to make something different than what other people have made. If that
Mhm.
person says, no, I feel like God gave it to me, then why the criticism? You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Because and we got to be careful because God also say to be careful because that you may entertain angels unaware.
This is true. Yeah.
You don't. So that's what I'm saying. So we gotta be better, but at the same time, we gotta continue to submit to God's will and purpose. And like I said, be better role models and leaders, especially in the lives of our children. Because a lot of young people today, James, they don't want to go to church now because they say it's a joke. They're a hypocrite. How they could talk about what I'm doing? Look what they doing.
Yeah.
To all you young people out there, I understand how you feel.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's sensitive, and you need the generation before to really, like,
that wisdom, the wisdom, right?
give the wisdom back, pay it forward. You want
Hmm.
the next generation to be more, more awake. You want them to be more spiritual. You want them to be more
Right.
connected in their relationship with Christ. And
Yes.
yeah.
That is so true. And James, there's people that we knew from Fairfield High School from years ago. They'd say, Brother James, we never forgotten about you. We
Mm,
never forgot about you because during that time, I didn't even because back then when we was at Fairfield High School, my focus was on ministry and what God had me to do there. I was a student like you and everybody else, and my focus was the future. What God's had me to do now, I was praying for that at Fairfield High School
wow.
even before coming to Fairfield.
And so, speaking of the future, that's my next question. So
Okay.
you've done a lot,
Hmm.
but you got a lot more to do.
That's correct.
So what is next? What does the next 10 years look like for James Birdsong Jr.?
Well, first, one of them is being a husband. Like I said, God blessed me with a beautiful Afro Latina young lady from
Hello.
Honduras.
Hello.
She knows about this interview. She arrived here. just past July, to take a teaching job at elementary school here. She's been teaching for over 10 years in Honduras. And
Mm.
so, a lot of people had prayed for her and us, and we did a photo shoot last weekend. So this is the woman that God going to be my wife, because James, in 2020, when the pandemic was going on, I prayed and asked God, I said, Lord, I'm about to leave my 30s. I dated, but it didn't work out like that. I said, God, I'm ready to be with that person you have for me. And and we was in a long distance for almost to this time, and now she's here. So
Mm.
my mom, she calls my mom. Our families, I talk to her family when I can. She has to interpret it for me because they speak Spanish and everything. So God bless me with a good woman in my life, and she supports me. And so that's one thing, being a husband, because my
That's a big one.
mother. My mother told me years ago. She said, she prayed, said, Lord, bless my son to get a good young lady as wife before I leave this world. Because my mom's almost 80, but she looks good for her age.
Hello, hey, that's what our parents do. That's what we do.
So, yeah, because they said
Yeah.
black don't crack, and that's true.
No. Yes,
No, sir,
absolutely.
no. So that, and plus, and it was been told to me all my life, even was at Fairfield High School. Everybody kept saying, James, you're gonna grow up and be rich and famous. So that's
Mm.
you always telling me that. When I was a little boy, there people was telling me that. People still telling me that. So that, but my focus, James, is building a legacy and leaving it behind for this generation. Because I had said that on numerous interviews all over the country on different media platforms, even abroad. And that's important because when our assignment in this world is completed, we have to leave something behind for the next generation to carry the torch.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And your family did exactly that for you.
Yes, and now
Exactly that.
God's raising this generation of the Birdsong family. I got a cousin. She lives in L.A. She was in Paris for 10 months. She's an opera singer.
Oh, nice.
Her name is Melena Owens. That was Edwin's granddaughter. And then I have another cousin named Cody Birdsong. He plays for a quartet group. He's a drummer. Then I have another cousin. He's a bass player.
Sheesh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then I
Sheesh.
have another cousin.
Yo, the
And I have another cousin. She used to.
takeover has
I have a
begun.
cousin. She grew up acting, but she left the industry and went into ministry. So she pastors in the AME church there in LA. And I have another cousin. She's Edwin's daughter. She's a radio has a radio show in LA.
Wow.
Then I have another cousin. He's in his 60s. I have another cousin. He passed in LA years ago. He's in the Bay Area now.
Mhm.
He actually, we talked yesterday briefly. He's over the pastoral care ministry at Mount Calvary Baptist Church with Dr. Claiborne Lee Jr. is the pastor. Because my cousin,
Oh,
his
okay.
name is Reverend Dwayne Birdsong. My cousin Reverend Dwayne Birdsong and Dr. Lee, they went to Morehouse College together. So
Ah,
my cousin was pastoring Union Baptist San Francisco over 20 some years ago. He's now pastoring now. So he is at Mount Calvary over the pastoral care ministry. I talked to him yesterday, and so it's
wow.
quite a bit. And I have family members who work for the government and even in other areas. And I have another cousin. He's a sheriff's deputy there in LA County. Hmm.
You know what? Your family does not need ancestry.com.
No.
They just need a Zoom with James. That's it. They just jump on Zoom with James and find out where the cousins at, where the aunties at, who's connected, who's living
And
where.
then I had a great aunt. She passed away 5 years ago. My great aunt Gladys
Mm,
Birdsong Murray, Chicago. She was the matriarch of our family. My last surviving great aunt.
awesome.
My grandfather's last sibling. She lived to be 93.
Awesome.
And then
Awesome. That's
when she
beautiful.
passed away, James, condolences were poured in everywhere to us.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hmm.
I can imagine. Yeah, you guys have been pouring out love
Hmm.
and positivity uh, throughout the planet, it sounds like. So
Yes.
that y'all deserve nothing less.
Yes. So
Nothing less.
and I had somebody on Twitter that tweeted me and said he said your family has done a lot for the black community in the world and the
Mm,
people at large, and we are grateful to God for that, because when God smiled down on my great grandparents and the elders of our family, James, like my late grandparents Ed and Ida Birdsong, they were Abraham and Sarah. And that's
Mm,
what that's what my cousins and I be talking about. So
yeah.
God has blessed, and he has given us favor and me favor as well. Because everywhere I go, people know who I am. They know who Cindy is. They know who Edwin was. They know who Otis is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, sir,
Yes.
brother James C. Birdsong Jr.,
Yes.
this has been a pleasure, my guy.
Thank
This
you,
has been
James.
a pleasure catching up with you, hearing about all of the endeavors that you've been on. I knew that I knew your story was going to be a good one. I knew it already. I told the audience before you got on. I knew this was going to be a rich story, and you have a story to tell.
Yes, and again, I'm honored because when you because I want to tell your listeners this. When Jason informed me about this interview, I had to do it because he and I, we go way back to Fairfield High. And James, before we go, I was telling
Mhm.
my special lady about when we was all in high school. I still have our yearbook, our photo albums. I even told her about, you remember back when they would take the seniors to Santa Cruz Beach for a walk.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
You went too. You went too.
Yeah.
But they don't take them there anymore. They take them to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. I'm like, they take them to Marine World now. No, really, because after we graduated,
Wow.
they were taking to Disneyland. Now the Marine World. I told my mother, I said, if I was a senior, I said I could go there anytime I want to go if I was living out there.
Right. Right.
But I was telling my Elizabeth about Santa Cruz. She said, baby, I never heard of an amusement park on the beach. She said, can we go? I said, we'll go there when we go.
We're gonna go.
I just want to congratulate you on this podcast, and I pray that God will
Thank you.
continue to bless you with this, and you get the support with this. And like I said, we and I go way back, and we would talk all the time. And like James, I got to share this to the audience.
Okay. Please, please.
You're going to be laughing because we talked about this earlier. I want to tell your audience, your viewers out there, when he and I was at Fairfield High School, I used to get on him all the time. Because
You're gonna go
when
there.
we would
You're gonna
come to
go there.
school, he would come to school dyeing his hair different colors.
Sure would.
Like one day it'll be orange, the next day it'll be yellow, the next day it'll be platinum. And I would say, what I said, man, when you gotta start dyeing your hair? And then when we was in high
Mhm.
school, I used to imitate, and James, you gonna laugh at this. Y'all remember I used to say, don't maybe get my belt.
Yeah.
You know what I got that from? The Wayans
Where?
brothers.
Ah,
And I remember
brought it full circle.
I remember there were times if I was absent, some of our classmates will say, you better be good. I'm gonna tell brother James what you did when you get back, and he's gonna get on you. Yet I had a comical side of me when I was in high school too.
He definitely did. It was the enforcers were you and the security guard Kojak.
Oh yeah, he passed away.
Yeah, I heard. I
And
heard. I
and
heard.
Mrs. Love, she finally retired. So there's only three people: like Mrs. Claiborne, Missy Calameras, and Mr. Shattuck.
Awesome. I got to go up there and say hi
I
sometime.
haven't
I do.
I haven't been
I
up
do
there.
talk to Alice Claiborne, Mrs. Alice Claiborne, sometimes uh, online. Her daughter and I are good friends and have been since we all graduated. Even her dad. We all went to a concert one year out here at the Greek Theater. He's a great dude.
Yeah, Mr. Claiborne, I
Great dude.
remember him. Matter of fact,
Claiborne.
the
Yeah.
last time I saw Kenya, I'm sure she told you she saw me at our first high school class reunion in '09. Because
Mm.
Mrs. I know she told you she saw me at the reunion because I spoke that night. You wasn't there, but I spoke that night. I was in my last year of college here, so I came back home 4 years later. And when that black limousine pulled up, James, everybody knew it was me and my cousin, my friend. I went there in the limousine
They already knew.
because
Gotta be. Gotta be Brother
because
James.
the limousine driver and his wife owned the company because I'd done business with them before leaving.
Mm.
So and Mrs. Claiborne said, James, she said, James, Kenya told me you came in a limousine. Kevin McCullough didn't go because his cousin was getting married that weekend. He heard about it. And when I talked to Mrs. Claiborne a few years ago after school on the phone, she said, James, you all famous now and you graduated with Kenya.
Nice.
So if you talk to Kenya, tell her I say hello.
I will. I will. Hopefully she'll see this. I'm planning on having her on the show probably in the next month or two. So, be
I
watching
will.
because, and check her episode out too.
Yes, yes. I got to go to Mississippi next month. I got to go to Jackson to meet with people in the industry there, and I'll be back in LA because I do have family there and sources there.
Sounds
It's
good.
been a pleasure, my friend.
It has.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my God. We'll see you on the next one.
God bless you and your family and everybody.
All right.
And
I'll be looking for that album.
yes, and also if they want to learn more about me or bookings, please go to www.jamescbirdsongjr.net. That's
Um,
www.jamescbirdsongjr.net. And my administrative assistant is her name is Ada Brown. And if you go to the contact, you'll see her email addresses on there.
Perfect. I'll make sure I put it in the description. So anybody want to reach out, make sure you just check the description. I had a link there.
Okay.
All right, my God. Thank you for your time, brother.
God bless you all.
All right. Peace out.
Bye bye.
All right, you guys, there it is. That was episode 29 of the Pod is Good podcast. My man, brother James Birdsong. You hear it. The Birdsong family, they done took over. You wonder why you can't get no job? Birdsong's got it. You wonder why you can't get that deal? Birdsong's got that already. No, I'm kidding. I'm messing around. They've done incredible things. Their family has definitely been blessed, and I appreciate him coming on and telling us his story. Ladies and gentlemen, Pod is good. And all the time, I will catch y'all on the next episode. This is Cashmere, California. Please subscribe. Tell somebody about it if you enjoyed it. And until next time, I'm out.